Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. That means we have our Band of Brothers call, and we have a good one for you. But before we get to that, we're going to make some announcements. And of course, we first start off with when our next DEs are. And we have the winter one that's going to be January 29th to February 1st back at the Atlanta Marriott Perimeter. Then springtime in Florida, back at the Sheraton Sand Key Resort, April 16th through the 19th. Summer up to Atlanta, July 16th to the 19th at the Marriott Perimeter Center again. Woohoo! And next going to come up, we're going to talk about our Connect groups. I think we tried a little bit more at this last DE to have more interaction while we were there, but it didn't stop. I hope we're having the same kind of interaction, whether it's emails, phone calls, texts, you name it. I hope you're talking to each other because it's nice to be supported. And then to our speaker. We had a few weeks ago before DE, but now we have the other half of the Elmira Family Chiropractic team, and that is Dr. Tom Green. And Tom Green came to chiropractic early in life. He started when he was 10 years old under chiropractic care, and it changed his life. And then he decided he was going to be a chiropractor at a very early age. So I'm very excited to hear the rest of his journey. So without any more of me talking, take it away, Dr. Tom.
Thanks, Mindy. So anytime Andy approaches me at DE, it's kind of like you kind of look down a little bit and try not to make eye contact. But, you know, you can't say no to Andy. He's such a nice guy. And so here we are tonight. Normally I'm in bed, so bear with me. But, you know, I just want to just start off by, you know, saying how much DE does for me and my family. And, you know, what I love about DE is the fact that people are real about their life and their stories and what's happening. Because I think, you know, you get so much insight from people by hearing their story and what's going on in their life. And personally, you know, this past year and a half has been, it's been tough for our family. You know, it started off about a year and a half ago with our all three of our kids being really sick with whooping cough for months, to the point where we had ended up in emergency because our daughter had lost consciousness and couldn't even breathe, and ended up on the floor. So you know, we thankfully, you know, God helped us persevere through that, and we made it through. But our daughters still continued to deal with immune challenges ever since, just difficulty with breathing, and it really, really took a toll on her. And then I was sick. You know, I think in chiropractic, especially us guys, I don't know what it is. I think it's ego, but we sometimes don't know when to say enough's enough and sit down. And, you know, I think that God places a mirror in front of us. And I always tell my patients, you know, give your body the time to rest and heal. And I wasn't doing that. I didn't take a sick day in 11 years. And then I got really sick. I ended up with pneumonia, and was sick for a good 3.5 months, to the point where, you know, I'd be adjusting someone and I couldn't talk. I'd have to leave the room and stick my head outside to breathe. The only positive was that I talked a lot less in practice, but, you know, finally made it through that, and then had a couple really serious skin infections, and dealt with some depression. And I think at the end of the day, you know, I wasn't serving myself. I was serving my ego. And so my question for you is, who are you serving? You know, I think sometimes we get stuck in these big goals, you know, this vision of what our life should be like, you know. And I think my ego was wrapped in serving people in my office being the chiropractor. And I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't filling my cup up, and this was affecting my health. I was getting run down, and my relationship with my wife. And so God slapped me in the face. And so, it's like I have a friend who's a chiropractor out east, and he's a mixer. We still love him, but he's always getting burnt out. He's getting sick. He deals with a lot of digestive issues, gets run down in practice, and I think, bottom line is it has to do with his ego, that his father was a dentist, and he wants to be legitimized in his father's eyes. So he does all he can to be like a medical doctor, basically. And he started off more vitalistic, seeing a lot of people, but I think at the end of the day, it just burns him out, because he's trying to be something he's not, to fulfill that ego. And so, I wish he would go back to just trying to serve people where they're at, and seeing more volume, because practice is way more fun when you're just there and present with people. And, like I think of where we started, like we weren't seeing volume. We were seeing 1 or 2 people every 15 minutes. And, my wife and I, we went to CMCC, and, a big day in clinic at the chiropractic college was 10 people, right? You saw 10 people, you're doing amazing. I remember thinking to myself, how am I ever going to see 100 people a week? That seems untouchable, let alone 100 people in an afternoon. So I think if you're not seeing the volume that you want, maybe you're just not ready. And it takes work, right? Preparation, doing the breaths, getting quiet, working on your fitness, your mindset, letting go of your ego. And so, for me, growth was gradual. I'm probably a bit of a slow learner, my wife would say anyways. But in listening to my wife, she's very smart. I slowly got there. When it comes to listening to your innate, I think that's the journey, right? It's journeying back to self, because I think when we're little, that's just how we live our life. We're innately guided, and then along the way we lose our path. And my wife, she's very innately driven, and I think women in general are just very innate, because they bring and nurture life into the world, and so they're just more connected. So you got to put in the work too, but also it's just, I think, being present with where you're at in your journey. We all want to have these big goals, see a lot of people, serve a lot of people, and I think that's important. But I think just putting in the work day in and day out is where the magic happens. Because you can try and force it, but that doesn't always happen. It's like this past year, I took up hunting, and anyone who's ever hunted knows it's not easy. There's a lot of skill and knowledge that goes into it. And last year was my first season, and I was trying to make it happen, and that's when I got really sick and run down, and I felt like I was just failing on many levels, and learning in doing that. But this year was a different story. I wasn't trying to force it to happen, and things just kind of played out. I got my first couple deer in the freezer, and the first deer I ever shot was this huge, massive buck. He came out on my first sit and 20 yards, and so a lot of people would be like, look at me, right? I shot this big deer, put it on my wall, and he's of course going on the wall, but I don't take it as anything that I did. It's God placed it in my lap, and it struck me because my father-in-law, who's not a very innately guided fellow, he likes to imbibe a little too much. He said to me on the phone after I got the deer, he said, I said it was probably just beginner's luck, and he said, well, you help and you serve a lot of people, and that was the universe giving it back and repaying it to you. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Just the mindset, like, it wasn't me trying to force it to happen. It just kind of happened. And I think the same thing happens, in life and in practice. You show up, you do the work. Who you surround yourself with makes a big difference. And I think that's where DE is such an anchor for myself and my family, because we go there and the kids get to hang around other DE kids and play in the back, and they love coming. They're always disappointed when mommy and daddy say, no, it's just mommy and daddy going this time. So and when it comes to hunting, my cousin, he's an incredible hunter, and so he's elevated my learning. And just like coming to DE, you surround yourself with people doing it big, and over time it just kind of rubs off on you, and that elevates you. So at the end of the day, I think being innately led is what God wants for your life. Your ego may want you to have the cars and the house and take the vacations, and that's all fine, but it's not that when it comes to serving your patients, that they don't care about any of that. Of course they want you to be successful, but they just want you to be there and be present with them. And that's why I love being in nature, because it's so easy to be there and be present. And my journey lately has really been trying to just stop thinking, which is and trying to get some thoughts together tonight for this talk. It was like I had to turn my brain back on, because I'm trying not to think much these days, because it just kind of gets in the way of everything. But I think when you show up in practice with the heart of a servant, and you're just there and you're present, and you do this thing called chiropractic, which is incredible. People will just show up. You keep doing that day in and day out, and then one day you're going to wake up and you'll be seeing the volume. You'll be seeing people in your community and seeing that change. And I really hope that you can do that, because your community needs you. And we're blessed that, we get to show up and do that every day in our community. And so I appreciate DE. We've been going to DE since our last year in chiropractic college. And even though we're not there every DE, we're still tuning in or listening online and trying to be a part of this thing, because it is essential. I don't know how people make it in practice without it, because it keeps me grounded, and we just love and appreciate the community. So thanks very much, guys.
Wow, you had a lot of gems in everything you brought tonight. I'm glad you're over the not doing well with your health itself, and that your family is doing much better. But it also found a major thing that some chiropractors never find, is that you have to take time for yourself, because you don't serve your community if you don't first serve yourself. And I think that you're young and you got to learn it early, where some chiropractors don't learn it early and much later in life, and they realize they've missed out on the self-care, and that they can't do the other things that they really want to do besides being in their office. So that's a great lesson that you learned, and that, of course, you have your wife to help to support you, and you support her in that mission to make your community a great community with chiropractic care. Well done. Not so happy about shooting animals and putting their heads in the wall. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough.
But
It's
then I'm a
not for everybody.
vegetarian. I know you're going to eat the meat. I appreciate that part, but the mounted trophy part is a little for me.
Yeah, I keep saying it. I want it over the fireplace, but it'll probably end up in the basement. So
Right. It'll be who really rules will tell you where it goes.
that's right. Yeah.
We are honored to have you as our speaker tonight, and we are also blessed to have you as part of our DE family. You're a shining light in your community, and we love and appreciate you, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Have a nice sleep. Good
Thank
night,
you. Appreciate
everybody.
it.